Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Finance and Governance Committee. I'm going to call it to order for March 28, 2013. And Madam Clerk, roll call and posting of the agenda.
Member Basua.
Here.
Member Tehran.
Here.
Chair Zaragoza.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on City Hall Bulletin Board on March 21st, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Our next item is item B. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers or any?
Chair Zaragoza, we do have one speaker.
Okay.
Jim Levery.
Thank you. Happy spring, everybody. I just wanted to talk briefly about the article that came out in the BC Star the other day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought it was overall a cheap shot at the city, especially from the Ventura County Taxpayers Association. But, you know, and I do think the city's going in the right direction. There's no doubt in my mind. So I want to say that first so nobody gets, you know, the idea that I'm not supporting the city. But there's a couple of things in there I didn't like, and one of them that there seems to be some kind of arrogance or smugness about the infrastructure use fee takeaway, and that wasn't, kind of like it wasn't a big deal. You know, it was like putting money from one pocket into another, and that really bothers me because that's not what happened. You took money from ratepayers and used it to fund general fund things illegally. The judge basically threw the bookie. I mean, his language is extremely harsh. Mm-hmm. So if you don't learn from that, you're going to go back. My feeling is that you could go back to what happened before 2010 if you're not vigilant about these things and accept responsibility and move on. You know, accept responsibility for what happened. Don't just say, oh, it could have gone either way. It was, you know, don't say that. Accept it and move on. The other thing I didn't like was in the staff report the city put together is that when the city took away, the city's rank was number 8 in 2021. Now, those were stale numbers, but that was the correct number at that time. The city took in $36.5 million that it did not belong to it. So the state, the accounting entry that took it away, made it everything correct. So you can't say, oh, if we put it back, we go from 8 to 69, because there was nothing to put back. The money was taken away. See, that's intellectually dishonest. And once you do that, you lose credibility with the people. The point was 2021 was an anomaly because of that, but you had great news behind it. You should have waited until the great news was available. In fact, it was available the same night, you know, when you did the audit report. So you did stale data. You did the report 20 months after the data was done, June 2021, and you reported it in February 23. Didn't make any sense. There was no reason to do that. You know, you shot yourselves in the foot, and look what happens. You know, the enemies of the city, they don't look at the good news, they're gonna look at the bad news, and that's what happens. So I just wanted to point these things out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And I just, like I've said always, you know, there's 1%, 2% of things we're not perfect, but there's 98, 99% of things that we do good. And thank you for your comments. Thank you. Madam Clerk, any other speakers, either virtually or here?
Chair Zaragoza, we have no additional speakers virtually or in person at this time.
Thank you. Our next item is item C1, the City Clerk Department approval of the minutes. Recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee approve the minutes of February 28, 2013 regular meeting as presented. Council members?
Chair Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item at this time.
Thank you.
I'll move the recommended action.
Recommend that.
Second.
First by Basu, second by Turan. Please vote.
Are we voting?
There we go.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Our next item is D2, and this is, D1, the Finance Department. This is presentation of a single audit. Recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee receive the 2022 single audit report from the audit firm, Eddie & Payne, and recommend the staff forward this presentation to the City Council. And
Mayor,
Yes.
can, if it would be okay, there's
go.
our auditor.
Oh, okay. This is live presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want to introduce the subject or additional information?
I didn't mean to interrupt. We were having some technical difficulties getting her up. But this is Eden Casareno from Edie and Payne.
Eden, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry for the wait. I was waiting for my link. So good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's already good evening.
Yeah, good afternoon. Mhm.
It's my pleasure to present to you tonight our single audit report for City of Oxnard for fiscal year June 30, 2022. We started our single audit in January of 2023 and issued a report on March 13, 2023. So the single audit report that was issued in March contains a few things. Tonight I'm going to go over most of them, all of them actually. So we will talk about the reports that are included in the single audit package, and then we'll talk about the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and then the major program that was actually audited and any internal control findings. Can I share you my slides, or
Yeah.
do you see it?
No, you can go ahead and put them up.
Can you see it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So,
Eden, can you put that on the full presentation? We're looking at your desktop.
Okay, go ahead. I'll change that. Hold on just a second. I need to stop sharing and share the right screen. Number 3. Okay. All right. Can you see it better now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, that's the problem with too many screens. I can't find what I need. So our single audit report includes 4 different reports, actually. There's the internal control report required by government auditing standards, a report on compliance for each major program, a report on internal control over compliance, and a report on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So the first one is related to internal control over financial reporting and also compliance related with financial reporting. In this report, we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the city's internal control over financial reporting or the city's compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and agreements. But we are required by auditing standards that if we find any items that we deem to be reportable, that we will include them in this report. I am happy to say that we did not find any items deemed to be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies or instances of noncompliance during fiscal year 2022. I think I already mentioned that in my last report presentation, but I wanted to mention it again because it's such a good, reflection of what your staff, what the city has done in the past couple years. Actually, this is the second year in a row that no internal control findings have been reported related to financial reporting. So kudos to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
The next three reports are all related to federal programs. So there's the report on compliance, the report on internal control over compliance, and this report on the schedule of expenditure of federal awards. And I'm going to shorten that to CFA. So we are also happy to report that the city is in compliance with requirements of its major program. And there were no instances of noncompliance or internal control findings related to the city's federal programs. I think this is the first year that I have not reported any findings at all related to federal programs. So again, congratulations to the city.
Eden, can you mention that again? There was no findings on that. That is really, really good news.
I would be happy to say it over and over again.
I think
No
I think maybe
findings.
Jim might like that. Thank you.
So the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, actually, I do have a little more detail on that one in the next slide here. So the procedures that we do for the CFA is also related to the financial statements. So we make sure that the information that is included in the CFA is also reflected in the financial statements of the city for that same fiscal year. So during that last year, you expended almost $35 million of federal expenditures. I think the year before, in 2021, there was less than 7 million. So that is a pretty large increase in total federal expenditures. You had a total of 19 programs, including CDBG, Homeland Security Program, assistance to firefighters, equitable sharing programs, some transportation programs, and senior nutrition services. Among all of those 19 programs, the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, or the ARPA fund, was the one selected to be the major program to be tested this year. So next slide here will show you how much the city actually expended for the ARPA fund. It's $28,289,000. Over $500,000 were provided to subrecipients for this grant. And then the eligible uses for the city was $21 million was spent to cover revenue losses, and then premium pay of about $1.4 million, capital outlay of about $2.4 million, and water and wastewater payment program of about $1.2 million. The others, that $1.9 million there, is like a lot of different things that I just accumulated into one number. So that's your major program. As far as I said, I'm gonna repeat it again, no internal control findings in fiscal year 2022. There were still some prior year findings though, and we had evaluated 6 items that are listed here. 2021 001 and 2017 005 both relate to indirect cost. That one is substantially resolved with the cost allocation plan already completed by the city as of issue date, which is March 13. The only thing remaining is the indirect cost rate calculation, which will be done in April of 2023. So by the time we start the audit for June 30, 2023, that should already be done, and it will be implemented for the fiscal year starting July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2024.
So Eden, that's completed then? Is that,
Yes, we consider that complete since the cost allocation plan has
Great.
been done.
oh, thank you.
You're welcome. 2021-002 is also fully resolved. That one was actually resolved before, maybe a year before our issuance. So financial statements, for the financial statements, we still have 3 items that are in progress. They are all related, information technology or IT general controls. As in the past, we don't really detail out the findings within the single audit report because this is a public report and we don't want to compromise the security of the city's IT. So that is going to be, the responses for that are going to be provided to the city council confidentially. They have been provided to us too, and we believe that some of the recommendations have been implemented while others are still in progress. So. That is all I have, I think. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I'll go over to the council members, but one of the things that you mentioned there on page 5 for the report on schedules and expenditures, that the audit was conducted for the purpose of forming opinions on the financial statement, collectively compromise the basic financial statements. In the bottom, you say that, in your opinion, that the schedules and expenditures for the federal awards were fairly stated in all materials respects in relation to the, were great as a whole, which I think is really, really important that we share that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Council members, Councilman Tron.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you, Ms. Casareno, for the update and the presentation. Very important information, and I appreciate the reminding of the general public that this is the second year you mentioned that there were no items found to be material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or non-compliance situations, correct?
That is correct. And I will say it over and over again. It is a good news.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Basua.
I have no comments. Thank you.
So we need a motion here to receive and file.
Chair Zaragoza,
Any more speakers? Or?
we do not have any speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you so much. So we need a motion then to go ahead and receive and file it and then forward this to the city council.
I will move that recommended action.
Okay, moved by Teran, second by Bishop. Please vote.
Motion carries 3-0.
And thank you, Eden, again for an excellent report. Thank you so much and for Eden.
Thank you, and you all have a good night.
Thank you. Our next item is the Finance Department, and this is subject update on the Corrective Action Plan, the CAP, for closing past audit findings. Recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee receive an update on the Corrective Action Plan, the CAP, for closing past audits findings and recommend staff forward this to the city council. And we do have, this again was reviewed under Measure M, and it was a pre-recorded presentation. We have Mrs. Olson here for any questions, council members? Any questions? Okay, I just want to share that with, again, it's an excellent presentation, by staff, and we're really working on the corrective action plan, which I think is working out great. So we need a motion on this item.
Chair Zaragoza?
Any speakers, either virtually or here?
We have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, we have a first by Councilor Basua.
I'll second.
And second by Councilor Turan. Please vote.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Our next item is, this is Information Technology Department, the purchase of Microsoft software and licensing. Recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee recommend that the City Council approve and the mayor execute an agreement and purchase order with an authorized Microsoft licensing services provider, a seller, and to piggyback off the County of Riverside Microsoft Enterprise Agreement number 8084445 for the amount not to exceed $2,028,260 for the continued use and purchase of Microsoft products for a 3-year agreement starting May 1, 2023 to April 30, 2026. And again, this is a pre-recorded item or presentation as required by Measure M. And we do have Helen here for any additional information that the board might require. Board members, any additional questions? I just want to share that this is really great, that we piggyback with Riverside, and that saves us additional dollars and having to, buy directly from Microsoft. And also one of the things that was mentioned too is that we're going to upgrade the entire system that really is going to be right up to speed, with what is happening now, and really help out some antiquated equipment that we have. So do you have any additional information on that, Hal?
Yes. I'll just add that it is true, using the Riverside Agreement, as 900 other public entities do, that we save a significant amount because that agreement is for organizations that have 15,000 or more devices. We just are cutting close to 1,500. So that is a material savings for us, and it's good to take advantage of that. Also, as part of this agreement in this report, the quotes were estimates because we're still working with the resellers and working with Microsoft on finalizing the agreement. Microsoft has a very orchestrated process in which they require all their customers to follow. And so we go according to their pace. But it looks like we'll save another $250,000 off of these estimates that I put in by changing resellers this year and using a different Riverside reseller.
So we're going to save how much, Alan, again?
$250,000 over the 3-year agreement.
That's excellent.
Yes.
That's very, very good. And I think as you mentioned in your report, that some of the equipment that we have is about a couple of decades old, so pretty well antiquated equipment that we have, but that's going to help us tremendously.
Yes, this particular contract will introduce efficiencies and effectiveness that doesn't exist today in how the IT department administers and provides internal controls for the workstations, PCs that are used throughout the city. But it will also improve the experience of all the city staff who are using those computers because IT can be more responsive in dealing with issues, and also just more responsive in rolling out updates. It'll provide cyber updates to all the machines, new functionality releases, and it just guarantees that we'll always stay up to date.
And also, if we needed help during the process, they will help us.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Turan?
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Miller. One thing you mentioned around updates I think is important because correct me if I'm wrong, if we have some devices that operate off one license or operating system that differs from another one. If we were to deploy updates, that might require the manual labor of a person physically going to a desk and doing that upgrade and correcting things that didn't upgrade properly because we had this kind of mismatch of licenses and software and operating systems. Is that correct?
That is correct, and this also not only brings in that licensing, but brings in data center management licensing that we don't have today, where IT needs to visit those 1,500 computers to make changes. And with the new updates that'll come with this agreement, we will no longer need to do that once it's implemented.
Great, thank you very much. And just to reiterate what you mentioned about the piggybacking, as was mentioned, I think that's really important for the public to see the just the volume discount we're getting by being collaborative with these other jurisdictions. And so thank you for your work on that and for negotiating that.
Thank you, Councilor Basua.
I've got no comments, but thank you.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve
Chair
this item.
Zaragoza?
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm almost there.
We have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you, and I'll make a motion to approve this item. Thank you, Helen. And second by Councilor Basua. Please vote.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, and now we're item E. Council members or commissioners, any items for the future?
I don't.
No? Nope. So, we're adjourned. Thank you. Mhm.